welcome to episode 1 of Jurassic Garage, where I'm going to show you a little bit about this, which is my 99 Civic VTi-S Aerodeck, and I'll tell you everything that's wrong with it, and there's quite a lot to get through, so let's go. So what exactly is a VTi-S Aerodeck? Well, it's a weird little Civic estate. They were available with a 1.4, 1.5 and 1.6 D-series single cam engine. I think the most powerful one was about 120 horsepower. They also did a VTi, which is the one I'm interested in, with a B18 C4 double overhead cam VTEC, around 170 horsepower, limited slip diff, 282mm brakes, which are actually bigger than a DC2 Type R for some reason. The VTi-S, which is what I've got, is basically a VTi, but with an additional lip kit added to the front bumper, rear bumper, I think different side skirts. They're all Pirates Black, which is a stunning colour, amazing in the sun when it's polished up nice. They're supposed to have a VTi-S gear knob, mats, a few other little bits and bobs, which mine hasn't got. They do have speedline wheels as standard, and the later ones had like a fan blade design. Mine doesn't have them, I've just got the standard VTi wheels on, because the guy I bought it off put a set of Steelies on it before I bought it. So a little bit more info on the engine. The B18 C4, it's I think very closely related to the US spec Integra DC2 GSR engine. So if there's any Americans watching, that's what you can compare it to. It's about 170 horsepower. I think it was also used in the Integra SIR-G, the Japanese version. It revs to 8,300 RPM, I believe. It's got 94 horsepower per litre, which is, from the time, sort of supercar comparisons. You know, the only thing with that sort of brake horsepower plate was either other Hondas, other weird Japanese NA high revving things such as the Toyotas and Nissans, and supercars, so like Ferraris and things like that, were about 10 horsepower per litre more, I think, for a naturally aspirated engine, so that's pretty impressive. Can't think of any other estate car that revs higher. The closest thing I could think of was an E60 M5, the V10 one. Googled that and they redline at 8250, so this is actually slightly higher than that. It's so weird that Honda put an engine like this in a car like this. It just doesn't make any sense. I can't believe anyone actually bought them, but they did. They were worth £700, £800. That's what they were selling for a very long time, from about 2010 to about, well, till not long ago at all really. So they were basically worthless, but the engine was always worth nearly £1,000. So whenever they came up for sale, breakers would just buy them, rip the engine and gearbox out, because obviously there's an LSD gearbox as well, sell it to some kid who'd put it in a rusty, knackered old Civic, redline it around for a year, blow it up, and then scrap it anyway. So they're just getting really thin on the ground, so I thought I best get one now while there's still some out there. Last time I looked, I believe there's only 10 VTi-S Aerodecks on the road. So this car itself is 10% of all the VTi-S estates left on the road. A lot of people joke about them being based on a Rover, which it's true, they do share a lot, but it's actually based on a Honda Domani, I think that's how you say it, which is Japanese, basically a Civic, only for the Japanese market, maybe Southeast Asia, I'm not sure. They did a deal with Rover, because Rover had no money to make their own bodies, to share the parts. And around the same time, the MB hatch and the MC, which is this, the Aerodeck, came out. So yeah, it's the Rover's based on the Honda rather than the Honda being based on the Rover, but they do look pretty similar. There was never a Rover version of the estate, although people have made a Rover version. They've used an Aerodeck, put the Rover panels on because they bolt straight on, I believe, and used the Rover V6, which is pretty cool. So it's a really small estate. An EG6, I've got written down here, is 4.1 metres long, and this is 4.4 metres long, and the wheelbase is almost exactly the same. There's a couple of centimetres in it, which is quite surprising. I did actually park them next to each other, my EG6 and this, and it's really surprising. The cabin's a bit further forward in this than it is in the EG, but yeah, it's just over a foot longer than an EG hatch. So a base model EG weighs 925 kilos according to Google, and a top spec one, which I'm guessing would be a VTi or an SIR with sunroof, aircon, you know, every option, is about 1130 kilos. This, according to Google, is either 1210 kilos or 1310, so there's 1 to 200 kilos difference. So I'm going to do a bit of a walk around now and show you everything that's wrong with it, and there is quite a lot. The bodywork's rough, the interior, well, look behind me. So I'll just explain everything that's wrong with it and what I'm going to do about it. So it doesn't actually have the VTi-S wheels. They're standard VTi wheels because the previous owner put a set of Steelies on. So these are better than the Steelies at least. So starting from the front, the bonnet doesn't sit anywhere near where it should, which I think is something to do with some sort of crash that it's had. This was in the photos, but they were that bad you couldn't see it, and the guy didn't mention it. But I still bought it and didn't ask for any money off because I'm an idiot. It did have some hideous chrome washer jets. They went straight in the bin just after I bought it. The washer jets are not looking too good. They did work, but they don't seem to anymore. Not too sure why. The front bumper's all cut out, so I can't fit my fog lights. You can see the knackered aircon rad and engine rad. There should be some mesh below the number plate, and there should be fog lights, but neither of them are there. So whether it's been turboed at some point, I don't know. And maybe it will be turboed again at some point, because these engines are perfect for a bit of boost. The bumper is a little bit like that. I think that's, yeah, that's my doing, to be fair. That wing's a different colour. You can't really see it now, but it is. So it's definitely had a wing at some point. Not too sure why. I'm assuming maybe the ball joint went or something, because this arch line is also missing, so that would tally up. Did spray the inside of the headlights myself, Rover grey, you know, closest to the EK9 colour as I could get. I think they turned out pretty good. That's one part of it that's pretty nice at least. The roof's got some nasty stone chips that have started to go a bit rusty. Somewhere over there, so I'll have to get the roof painted at some point, I think. There's something weird about this door mirror, as you might be able to tell. The original one just kept flopping backward and forward, so I replaced it with this off a scrap Aerodeck VTi that I broke, and that one did the exact same thing, hence the tape. This door's got a nasty ding at the bottom. It was in at a garage for some work, and they lifted it up, unfortunately, with the door open. So it took a nice chunk of paint off, which has now gone rusty. And the door, to be fair, it's all ripply anyway. This was the only good panel on it, this rear door. But then I was a little bit drunk, camping at an air show, charging things up with a spare car battery at night. So I opened the door, went to put the battery in, and missed the hole. And it did that. So that's not ideal. Back quarter's good at least, which is handy because that's one of the other things you can't replace. Arches are good. They're basically the first thing to go on a Civic. Pretty happy with that. Brakes are not great. Pretty much like that all around. They work, but they're definitely on the way out. I think I might have a couple of seat calipers. Round to the back. Yeah, nice rust patch there. That's knackered. Nice dint and scrape there as well. And also, if you actually open the boot, that handle sticks and it's an absolute nightmare to get it back down. So then the boot doesn't shut. Moving round, rear bumper's got a nice big hole in it. The car did have LPG, I removed that. That's a remnant from the LPG system, unfortunately. At least they didn't cut the VTi-S lip, because that would have been an expensive one to replace. There's a little bit of trim missing there. I did a lot of tip runs in this car when we were renovating the house and basically trashed the interior. So I bought another interior, went to swap it over, and I just ended up losing a few bits. So that doesn't stay up. And under the boot floor, this is where the LPG tank was. So they've actually just cut a massive hole in the floor, well, 3 massive holes in the floor, bolted it up too tight, and it's pulled the floor up and dinted it, and it's all been hammered there, and it's just horrible. So let's pretend that isn't there. Boot trim's missing. Again, that got knackered when I was doing all my tip runs, so I just took that off and took that to the tip. Filler cap's missing. I do have it. I'll explain why it's missing shortly. This arch is also pretty good. It's got a tiny bit of rust just starting there. hopefully just rubbing that down and painting it will sort it. It's not bad at all, especially for a Civic. This door's pretty good, to be fair. The only thing is that bit of weather stripping is looking a bit weathered. Someone has tried to get it off, you can see there it's been pulled up. This door is all ripply, so that's no good. On the plus side, that door mirror is pretty much mint, so that's something. That wing is all ripply, see along the top edge along here. You will notice it's got a clear side repeater on the other side and an amber one on this side. I have got another one, so that can go in at some point. The arch liner is all hanging out on this side, which is not ideal. At least it's there, unlike the other side, and there's a bit more cable tie action there. So interior wise, it's not in too bad condition, but there's a few daft bits missing, so I'll go through them now. The door handles, as I was swapping the door cards over, I snapped the clips on both sides. So to open the door, you have to find that and pull it, and you end up with a pretty sore thumb when you've been driving it for a week. Blanking plate missing there. That was the LPG button. It was all drilled and made a mess of, so I just got rid of that. There's a hole in that from an immobiliser light. That's why the switches aren't in, because this is going to come out and I'm going to replace it. The radio's missing. Do have one. I need to fit it. Heated rear window switch. I lost that. Not sure where that's gone. Hazard light switch. I broke it, and I probably shouldn't push it because it doesn't always come back out. So I might be stuck with my hazards on. It does have aircon, and it works as well. Ish. It takes about 20 horsepower, but it works. It's reasonably cold, surprisingly, from the state of the radiator. ECU cover's missing. Not sure where that's gone, so I need to get one of them. And yeah, there's just a few daft little bits missing. Little cover there for the seat belt, obviously the boot trim, the back seats. And because I've fitted a pre-facelift VTi interior, the rear seat loop things that the seats lock into don't fit, and nor do the plastics either, so I'm going to have to swap them from an early spec car because this is a late spec. One thing that I forgot to mention in the walk around, the right hand rear indicator doesn't seem to work. I've tried different bulbs, so I don't think it's the bulb. Hopefully it's just the tail light loom. And if I have my side lights on my headlights and I brake, that bulb goes out and the brake light doesn't come on. So I think there's definitely something with that right hand loom. So I'll nick that off the other one. I think that'll be my first job, to be honest, because, you know, I'm fed up of sticking my arm out the window to indicate. So now we're going to have a little look under the bonnet. There it is, the old B18 C4. It's got a massive oil leak, probably from the VTEC solenoid or a cam seal. The rocker cover, that's been painted by a previous owner. I'm not guilty of that. I think he's done it with Tipex and blood. The intake, well, I think there's only one word to describe that, and that's probably Birmingham. Integra Type R strut brace, I just had it lying around and they're a direct fit, so I whacked it on. Another remnant from the LPG system, the wiring for the injectors is all hacked up because it was spliced into for the LPG injectors. There's some nice bolts blocking the vacuum lines that were also something to do with the LPG. In general, it's just absolutely minging, but I daren't clean it up properly with that wiring being like that, so I need an engine loom and, to be honest, an inlet manifold. The aircon rad is pretty minging, as is the engine rad. There's a little bit of rust starting under there, hopefully wire brush, bit of rust converter and hammerite should see that not get too much worse. Don't think there's too much else to say about the engine bay, apart from it's really minging. So now I'll explain to you why this is off the car. So to get all that bodywork sorted, I'd be looking at a respray and quite a lot of prep work, because, you know, every panel needs a decent amount of work doing to it. I did speak to a few people and the going rate is, you know, 3 or 4 grand, which I don't think I can justify putting into this car. So I was hoping to find one, you know, the same colour, but I think that was a bit optimistic. you know, to swap all the panels over. So I was kind of resigned to the fact that I was going to have to find another Aerodeck with straight bodywork in silver or red or whatever, and then just get it painted, because it'd be a lot less prep work. And I was scrolling through Facebook the other day, I spotted a Pirates Black 1.6 ES, which has the full black leather, not the half leather that I've got here. It had been off the road for 10 years, so it wasn't mega money. It had run out of MOT, I think in 2010. It had gone for an MOT in 2012 and failed. And then the guy had just stuck it down the side of his house. I thought, you know, this sounds too good to be true almost. Took the filler lid off this, took it with me to go and have a look, and it seems to be a pretty good match. We came to a deal and I've bought it, and I'm going to swap all the panels over. And then there's loads of little daft things, all these bits of interior that are missing. I can just steal off the other one. Obviously with the colour matching, I can swap every panel apart from the roof and rear quarters. So then if I do need to get them painted, at least it's just the roof and rear quarters, which will be, you know, a fraction of the cost of getting the whole car done. It's more than I would have paid for a scrap car, but it's going to save me so much in the long run. It's a bit of a no-brainer really. It was only local, it was 15 minutes away, probably less than 10 miles away. Ideal really. GR Yaris. Oh wow, first time I've seen one. Oh, I love it. Hope you can see that on the on camera. He's actually turned into where I was. If it wasn't for COVID, I'd be going and having a word with him and asking him every single thing about it, because I really, really bloody want one. In fact, a GR Yaris is probably the only car you can buy now that I would actually buy. Absolutely love them, think they're awesome. So yeah, as far as driving it's concerned, it's not very good. The engine's fine, to be honest. Gearbox is pretty good, but the chassis isn't really. It's really body rolly, but then weirdly bad at handling bumps and stuff, so you hit a pothole, you bloody know about it. And you'll probably notice that in a sec. Get past and the exhaust blowing, as you might be able to tell. But yeah, suspension wise, it's not good at all really. The rear trailing arm bushes are well shot, they're absolutely knackered. So if you're giving it a bit of sauce on an uneven road, it's dragging you about all over the place. Obviously it's got an LSD, so that doesn't really help with that. That hole in the wall there, I swear that wasn't here on my way. That's a bit weird, so I don't know if it's just happened or I was asleep and didn't notice it. Tractor. Even though the ABS light's on, it did just kick in then. So you tell me what's going on there. Civilians can't do a VTEC. So I think that's going to round up this episode. Hopefully you know a little bit more about this car now and why I think it's so cool, and it is pretty unique to be fair. But they're very underrated and sort of underappreciated. You'll see in the next episode, trying to make it a bit less crap, a bit less of a shed. If you enjoyed it, if you made it this far, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that malarkey. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.